Greetings! Welcome aboard, and thank you for tuning in to the Heavy Metal Chuckers. We are your hosts. I am Dobby, and this is Doppler. And in this one, we gave each other stuff to check out and give our perspectives on. He gave me Camelot's Black Halo, and I gave him... None, Damp Chill of Life.
Yes, that thing.
Yeah, well, I got the... I was about to say Wrath, but I'm like, wait, that's the other one.
The other one.
Yeah. Alrighty, so I will let you take things away.
Well, first explain why I gave you the Nightwish one.
You mean the Camelot?
I mean the Camelot. We're both doing it. Yeah, so I'm a big Camelot fan, first of all. And yeah. Anywho, so you know, and I gave you Black Halo from Hamlock because it's my favorite album for them, and it's probably I wouldn't say probably, it is my favorite power metal album. So yeah, that's why I gave you that, and you gave me None
because at the time of this new channel being done, it was around the time that we did a album review on Shining's self-titled album.
Yep.
And while I was listening to it, I was thinking to myself, this is a little bit cleaner than what I remember Redefining Darkness was. Whenever I re-listened to Redefining Darkness and we did that, I realized it's not as different as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So I decided, let me take him on a journey into some of the heavier, more raw aspects of depressive black metal. And so what turned me onto it heavily was None and their album Damp Chill of Life. I mean, they had that wasn't their first album, but it was the second one, but I think it still marks an amazing aspect of depressive black metal, and I'm like, check this out and see where the depths are.
Alright, can you bring up the track listing for me?
Oh, yeah.
So I had never heard of None other than like maybe you mentioning them. So I'd never listened to them before, so I didn't really have any preconceived notions.
If you had heard of them, it was whenever we were at our previous place of employment, I had it playing, so you kind of caught wind of it.
It's possible. So let's see, 7 songs on the album. So for me, the first thing that really stood out about the album as a whole is the atmosphere. Like, the album has an incredible atmosphere through the whole thing. You know, they do an incredible job at creating that somber, you know, atmosphere. They do a lot of little things to create it too. I remember one song, they had like this whispering happening underneath, and you couldn't, at least not that I can remember, you couldn't really understand what they were saying, but it was there, and it helped add to that kind of
Obscure tranquility.
yeah, and it was cool little things that they did like that at places that really, you know, helped create this atmosphere. It's like they really thought about it when they were going through it, how to, you know, create that atmosphere. And even though I am a very optimistic person, I'm you know, I don't battle depression or anything like that. I like music that has a darker atmosphere,
Ambience,
yeah, darker ambience, you know, which this does. Now, you know, they kind of had that intro with Fade, which kind of set the tone for the album, and it did a decent job. The only complaint that I had going through the album is, and I mentioned this when we filmed this the first time, but didn't have our sound on. Yeah, because we're geniuses. Is that some of the songs, or majority of the songs, not all of them, but majority of them, they didn't change much. It was like the same thing all the way through. So with somebody with ADHD like myself, I already have a hard time concentrating on something. So even though I'm enjoying it, if the sound continues the same for like the longer songs, like the Damp Chill of Life, my mind would start wandering. You know, and I would come back like 30 seconds later and go, wait a minute, what just happened? And it's not a knock on the music. It's strictly just, you know, an ADHD thing. Like I can't help it. You know, so, but because I have ADHD, it is still a little bit of a knock on it because, you know, somebody like me, it even though it's good and I'm enjoying it, because the songs don't really change a whole lot through the whole thing, or through like the whole song, my mind starts to wander. You know.
Well, and this is part of the aspect where the foundation is strictly black metal, where
Right.
it's like there's no real kind of variation. Just make it sound as filthy, and just be repetitious because that was what they were trying to do at the
Yeah.
time, which was go completely against the mainstream.
Yeah.
So, and it does now, with it being depressive, it not only has the lyrical elements of any kind of depression or alcoholism, but it also, they bring about it with the ambience and being almost in that depressive trance as the musician. It's like they lose space and time, so it creates this extremely long and almost dragged out experience, but it allows the audience to kind of understand the mindset of what the artist is portraying and what they're feeling.
Yeah, like it and you definitely got that through the whole thing, even through his vocals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that they used his vocals to help create that atmosphere and create that emotion, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like I said, they do a fantastic job of.
Absolutely.
And there was one other issue I had with the album. I remember what it was, and I can't remember what it was. But I remember I liked. Yeah, you did a good thing. That was a good song.
That was the one that I'm damn certain they have a film clip in that, and I just don't know what it is. I want
I
to
don't
try and
know.
figure out, but as small of a group as these guys are and how almost underground they are, I don't think it's going to be very easy to find that.
Yeah, and you said they've never done a live show, did you?
Yeah, to my knowledge, they have never played live. Which they're very much probably like Darkthrone in that perspective, in which they are extremely misanthropic, and so that's part of the reason that Darkthrone maybe played one show back in like 91 or 92, and they never did another one since.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, like I said, was the atmosphere of it and how well they created the atmosphere. You know, that really stood out. And, you know, musically, like I said, for somebody with ADHD, it did cause me to lose concentration at times. Yeah, my mind wander. You know, but as a whole, I still enjoyed it. Like, it was good. It had the sound that I like, atmospherically anyway. You know, his vocals were good. You know, musically it was good, especially for what it is. You know, you know, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the score I gave it before. And I want to say it was between a 7.5 and an 8, if I remember correctly.
I think that's around the ballpark of what
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, and I think I might even said it was a little closer to an 8. Because really the biggest planet, which for somebody with ADHD, it's a big deal, like having your mind wander and having to go back, having to like make sure you didn't miss anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was a solid album.
For me with Camelot, I listened to it twice.
Yeah.
Very first time, I was absolutely loving it. In the beginning, they had this kind of, which the name kind of foretells this, but he had a very modern perspective on medieval tunes and medieval instrumental, and they incorporated that with the various metal aspects.
Yeah,
And
it was March of Festo was that song.
yeah, and it would just overall, it was just instrumentally was amazing, and the vocals were just very rich and powerful, and they were amazing the first time around.
Sagareth is in that too.
Whenever I re-listened to it, there was so much goddamn vibrato in the vocals that it was almost
Yeah,
a turn off for me.
He does use a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, and what bugs me is I can tell the second time around I was listening to it, he has a damn solid voice.
Oh, he has an incredible
Can
voice.
carry notes like nothing else, but he destroys it with the insistent use of vibrato that just kills it for me. And it was getting to a point where I was ready to just listen to something else, but I wanted to keep on pushing through because everywhere else it was sounding fantastic. The other issue that I had the second time around was, again, you know how I can feel about leads, and the second time around I was listening to it, and it really instilled how I feel about leads, that unless you have a solid rhythm, their lead is just pointless, and it's just, to me, it carries nothing. I don't care about like fiddling around on the fretboard and just what I would call wanking off on it. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't care for it. I want a strong rhythm section. Now there was, and like vocally, the track that bothered the ever-living shit out of me was Moonlight. Like, I don't know what about it was, it just irked me. And then Memento Mori was probably one of my favorite tracks on it.
That's my favorite track on the album.
Yeah, and I'm not really someone that like goes through each track or can detail necessarily much about each track unless it very much stands out to me. And just I take the album as a whole for what it is. The reason I don't like singles. There is a context to each track that creates the whole album, and that's how I look at things. But I mean, aside from how the vocals were irking me with the vibrato the second time around, it was still a damn solid album, and the distortion on the guitars were just fucking outstanding. It had very much of that mid-millennial production on it that I vastly enjoy. I forgot to listen to it with a headset on because the low end probably would have greatly been there. But aside from that, I enjoy the album. Would I go on my way to listen to it again? Probably not. But if it came up or if I was hearing it, I wouldn't try and get away from it. So with that being said, I'd probably have to give this a 7.5.
I think that's what you gave it the last time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like the vibrato doesn't really bother me. I can
Which-
see why it would some people.
Well, the vibrato is quite commonplace. Not like it's not overused, but it's quite commonplace within power metal or any kind of sometimes symphonic. But yeah, power metal it's very prevalent.
Yeah. Camelot and Blind Guardian are very similar to each other.
Although I think Blind Guardian doesn't take so heavy on the vibrato, if I remember correctly. But
Well, I was talking about more musically, not
Oh
necessarily
yeah,
vocally.
yeah. Blind Guardian, they're incredible.
Yeah, and that was with Khan, who was the Roy Khan. He's their second vocalist. Their current one's Tommy, and I cannot remember the name of the first vocalist for the life of me.
Yeah, but yeah, that was our thoughts on these two albums, and until next time, keep rolling heavy.